Hi everyone, in this video I will be showing you how to post fetch data by using two ways, that is fetch all the data and fetch data by using ID, update and as well as delete data in MySQL database by using Spring Boot and Postman. So I will be showing you how to perform all the CRUD operations. So let's get started. You need to just go to your browser and you need to search for Spring Initializer. You will be getting this first link over here, Spring Initializer. Just click it. And here you need to add the dependencies as well as the name of your project and the versions. So I will go with Gradle Groovy, that is fine. Language is Java, and let me just now change the name as Spring Pro, something like that. You can just give it to everywhere. Yeah, you can just paste it and you can just change it here as well. Yeah, this is totally up to your choice, and jar is fine and Java 17 works for me. So these are fine now. So we will be using some dependencies over here. So just click on add dependency. And first thing we need to search for Spring Web. Just add it, Spring Web, and I'll click again add dependency. And next one is going to be the Spring Data JPA. So it's going to be Spring Data JPA. Here we will be having, and I will add the MySQL driver as well, MySQL driver. And final one is going to be Lombok. The reason why I'm adding Lombok is because we don't want to manually create the getters and setters or the constructors. We can just use the annotations present inside Lombok. So these are basically the four dependencies that I'm adding. So this is the entire stuff. All right. So once you are done creating all these, you need to just click on generate. So it will be getting downloaded in a form of a zip file. So here you can see, right, Spring Pro. So now let me just go to my downloads folder. So here you can see it is in a form of a WinRAR zip file. So just right click it and just click on extract files and just click on OK. So it will be getting extracted over here itself. Yeah, so here you can see this is the file. We'll be having source and main.test. So this is the .java file over here. Yeah. So this is the file. So now let me just open this particular folder as a project in IntelliJ. So for that, just go to IntelliJ IDEA, and after opening IntelliJ IDEA, you need to go to File, I need to go to Open, I need to go to Downloads, and here you will be having the Spring Pro, the Spring project. Okay, just click on that and click on OK, and just click on this window. So at first it will take some time to load, so just be patient. I think it will take some time for indexing as well as the Gradle to build. So just be patient at first. So here you can see it will be showing you updating index and importing Gradle. So Gradle build. So these two processes are really important, and you need to wait for some time until both the processes are getting completed. So here you can see now all the processes have been now completed and there is no loading or anything like that. So first thing what we need to do is we will be just going to my main Java, and here you can see this is my main application over here. So now we will be making some changes in application.properties. So for that, where you need to go is you need to go to resources, and here you will be having application.properties. Just double click it, and here you will be having the application.properties. So first we will be adding our local URL of our MySQL database. So it's going to be spring dot data source dot URL equal to jdbc colon mysql colon / localhost colon 3306 / and next you need to specify your database name that is going to be present in your MySQL workbench. So I will just name it as new DB, and you need to specify colon 3306 because this is not like the random port number. This is the port number where MySQL workbench is running. So be specific to that. So once you are added your database, you need to create this particular database in MySQL workbench. Otherwise, it will throw you an error. So I will just go to my MySQL workbench and create this particular database new DB. And if I just now refresh it over here, I'll be having the database created. So this is fine. And next thing we need to specify the username and password of your MySQL database. So let me just now copy this thing. So it's going to be spring.datasource dot username. I need to specify the username, which is root for me. This may vary from person to person. And again, spring.datasource dot password. So you need to specify your password. Let me specify mine. So this is fine. These are some of the credentials that we need to give over here. So after this, we will be using some connections or properties for our connection. So it's going to be spring.jpa.show show hyphen SQL equal to true. So this command is basically like used to display the SQL command in our console. So I told you like we will be creating a table at the end. So the creation of that particular table and its SQL command will be displayed at the console. So that's the reason why we are adding this particular property. And next thing are going to be some of the default properties. Okay, it's going to be spring.jpa.generate and hyphen ddl equal to true. Next one is going to be spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl.auto equal to update. And final thing, let me just now copy this and paste it. Dot properties dot hibernate dot dialect equal to org dot, you'll be having hibernate dot dialect dot ISQL8 dialect. Okay, so here to be careful, M is capital, Y is small, SQL or caps, 8, D is capital and dialect. So once you're done adding all the values in application.properties, you need to come to the folder where you have your main Spring application. Okay, so by default the name would be com dot, it will be your project name. Okay, so you need to just right click over here and we will be adding like 4 folders or directory. So the names of the folders is going to be entity, repository, controller and service. Okay, so it will sound confusing, I will just create them first. So it's going to be new, and here we will be having an option called as package over here. Just click it. So first I will be creating the entity folder. Okay, just capital E, type entity, just hit enter. Okay, so after that we'll be getting this entity. So don't make any changes. Okay, don't rewrite that particular thing. Okay, so again after right clicking I will be going with package. So what I meant was here we'll be having a dot. Okay, so don't just remove that. And next thing is going to be the repository. Yeah, and next one is going to be controller and the service. It's going to be the service. So it's not necessary to have like this folder structure, but it's always good to implement. So it's more easy to read your code. In companies generally they will have this way. So it's always better to practice having separate folders for each purpose of your file. So the final one is going to be our controller. So it's going to be controller. Yeah. So first we will be starting with the entity. So entity basically will have the Java file in which we will specify our table as well as its columns and its data members. Okay. So just click on entity, right click, new. You will be having this Java class. Click that. I will name the class name as student because I'm just going to like input student details as a demo purpose. Enter this class name. You can enter whatever you want. After that, just click on class and hit enter. So here we will be having the student class created for us. So through this class, we will be able to add properties and column names for our table that we are going to create in our MySQL. Okay. So just imagine this as a class representation of a table. Okay, basically that's it. So first let me add the column names. Okay, after that I will go and annotating the particular main class. So it's going to be, I will have here 3 columns, which is ID, mark and name. So it's going to be private, have it as int ID. So this is going to be like the primary key, the unique key. Yeah, so for representing it as a primary key, we will be having the ID annotation. Okay, ID, just hit enter. And I will also add a column name. Okay, so we can specify the column name manually as well by using the column annotation. Like if you want the default ID to be the column name, you can also have that. I will just have this. So just open bracket, have name and I will just give it as ID. That's it. And for this ID to be auto incremented or auto generated value, we can just have the generated value function. Okay, yeah, so these are some of the standard stuff that everyone uses for a particular unique ID in the column. So next one is going to be the mark and name. So it's going to be private, it's going to be of type int and it's mark. Yeah, and same thing, column is going to be the lone annotation column and name is going to be students mark, like that. And the final one is going to be the name private, this is of type string with capital S, and I will put name, and it will also have the column annotation. Okay, column, I will have the name equal to, I will just go with the standard name, that's it. Yeah, now this is now fine. So these are some of the columns that we'll be having in our table. So after doing all this, we need to also add some main annotations to our student class. Okay, so the first annotation is the entity. So entity is like we will be referencing Spring Boot that this particular class corresponds to that particular table present in MySQL DB. Okay, so that's what the entity annotation does. It's important to have that. And next we will be using the data annotation. This is present inside Lombok. So whenever we are creating a class, we need to have all those getters, setters, as well as so many things are there. But by using this data annotation, this will automatically create all the getters and setters for each and every data member for our class. So always better to use Lombok and this data annotation. So after this, we will be also having the table. Okay, so this table annotation exactly similar to column annotation, by through which we will be referencing our table name. So this particular name that we will be specifying over here is going to be the table name in our MySQL DB. So I will just have a name it as, I will go with student underscore DB, something like that. Yeah, so this is now fine. So after this, we can also add the constructors. So it's going to be capital N, I guess. Yeah, the no org constructor. So same thing, we also need to create a constructor and initialize the values. So we need to have an empty constructor as well as a constructor with the data members value. So these are some of the standard stuff. So by using these annotations, we can like bypass those things as they are automatically done with the help of these annotations. So it's going to be all logs constructor. Okay, yeah, some of the standard things. So now we are good with our entity class. So after this, we will be creating a repository interface. So it is not a class, it is an interface. So which is also used to basically like reference to this particular entity. So it is like this. Okay, every entity of a table in Spring Boot will have a repository of its own, through which we will be able to execute queries and other stuff. Okay, so just imagine it as that way. So just come to your repository folder. Now we are done with our student.java. I will just close it. Okay, just close this as well. Yeah, and I'll just come to repository, right click, new. It's going to be of Java class, but it's going to be of type repository. Okay, I will just name it as student repo. Okay, it's also always good to have in camel case. Just hit enter, and if you want to name this as student entity, you can also do that. Okay, just name it as student entity. It's your total choice. It will be more like readable and understandable if you have that way. In case of like you're having more number of files, since I'm having only one file, I will just name it as student. Okay, so that is good. So now let me come to my repository, and here you can see, right, this is an interface. Okay, this is not a class. So student repo, first thing we need to have extends. Okay, this is a keyword extends, and after this we need to add the JPA repository, which is like an inbuilt class of Spring Boot. So it's going to be JPA capital J. Okay, capital J. We will be having the JPA repository over here. Just hit enter. So through this way we will be able to perform all the CRUD operations to our database or entity. So just expand this. Okay, yeah, we will be having this greater than lesser than symbol, and within that we need to specify our class name of our entity. So my class name over here is student. Okay, so you need to specify that first over here. So it's going to be student. You will be having here, yeah, student, here it is. Okay, you need to specify the class name, and this will get automatically imported, and a comma, and here we need to specify the data type of the primary key of our student class. So student class is over here, and the data type of our primary key is of type integer. Okay, so you need to specify the data type of the primary key. So it's going to be obviously integers in 99 of the cases. Okay, 99% of cases. So just specify the data type of the primary key. It is integer. Okay, so that's it. Now we are done with our repository, and entity is also done, repository is done. So next thing we have only service and controller. So what service basically does is that it allows us to perform the post, save, put, fetch, all the operations. Okay, so I'll just go to service, right click it, and new, and this time it's going to be a plain Java class, not any interface or something. So I will just type it as student service. Always good to use camel case. Okay, use camel case everywhere. Okay, and I will just now hit enter. So we'll be getting the service. I will close the repository, and in the service we will be able to access the entity through the repository variable. Okay, So the repository object, we can't access an entity directly, okay? So only with the help of the repo, we will be able to access the objects or data members or the functions that are present inside our entity student. I hope that made sense. So in the service, the first important thing is we need to annotate the service, okay? So it's going to be at service annotation to reference it as a service class. So after this, we will be creating our reference variable or object of our repository. So as I told you earlier, we will be only able to access the student class details through the repository object, okay, with this help of the object of student repo. So I will create that, okay. So it's going to be private, the name is student repo, yeah. So I will name it as the small s, okay, student repo. Yeah, this is a naming convention, okay. Whenever you are creating a variable, the first thing should be the class name itself, and after that the variable name should be like the smaller letter of that particular class name itself. So it's like a common naming convention used. So we will be able to access only the values present in our main student class with the help of this variable or object, okay. Also you need to annotate with this auto void, okay. Yeah, so this is used for basically like dependency injection or referencing our repository variable over here. So it's you need to use this auto void, otherwise you will be getting an error. Okay, so now we are done. So next thing, we will be creating a function for saving or posting the data, okay, because that is our main aim in this video, okay. We need to post and save data in the database. So for that, we will be creating a function. So it's going to be public. You need to create it as public, okay, because we will be using this function in our controller, okay. Controller will be having a Java class and we will be using that particular function over there. So it's always good to have our function as public. And the return type of this particular function is going to be of student, okay. Student means this particular class, okay, this main entity class. So it's going to be of type student. And next is the name of our function. I will have it as save details. You can name it as anything you want. And the function is going to have only one parameter. That parameter is going to be an object of the class student. So what I meant by object is that it's going to be like these things, ID, mark and name. So these are like data members, and this particular parameter will have all these values as an object inside it. So it's going to be student. Yeah, student. I will go with the same naming convention, like with a small s after that. Yeah, student. So after this, we will be returning it, okay, because since we have used student over here, we have to return it. Return. We'll be using the repo name. As I told you, for accessing the values or saving anything, we'll be using the repo object or variable. So it's going to be return student repo dot, and here we'll be having so many functions, okay. So in that we'll be using the save. So this basically saves our data in our table, as simple as that, save. And inside that we will to pass our object, okay, student, this variable, okay, this variable over here. So this student will have all the details like ID, mark and name in our object form, and we are just saving it in the table. Simple. So now we are done with our entity, and the final thing that is left is our controller. So the main purpose of controller is defining the path and the operation. So here you can see, right, let me go to my Postman. So here you can see that we will be having so many operations: post, put, fetch and delete. There are so many operations, and we will be also having this particular path or the route. Okay, add student. For post we will be having, for put we will be having put, delete we will be having /delete. So we will specify all these details in the controller. So just right click controller, new, we will be having the Java class, select it. I will just name it as, what is a student controller? Yeah, simple controller, like that, class, okay. Everything is class except repository, okay. And we'll be getting the student controller over here. And we will begin by annotating the controller class with rest controller, okay. So this is to specify that this is a controller class. So after that, we will be creating a service variable, okay. So here in service, okay, in service, we had an object of student repo. Exactly similar to that, in our controller, we will be having an object of the service class, okay. So service class name is student service, okay. So I will just go to my controller. So it's going to be private student, I think it's capital S, yeah, student. We'll be having the student service, okay. So we'll be creating a variable of our service, okay, student service. I hope that made sense. This one, student service, yeah. And you can name it after that. It's going to be the same thing, the small s student service, yeah. And we will also annotate with auto void, exact same thing for referencing it, yeah. So we are done. And after this, we'll be creating another function So here the main route or the path for our post operation will be specified. So as I told you, right, this particular path needs a function. Okay, every path will have a function to its own. So I'll just come here. The function, as I told you, it's going to be public. Okay, in most of the cases, public, and it's going to be of the type student. Okay, student as usual, the main entity, and it's going to be, I will have it as add details or post. Okay, post details. Okay, post details. That's going to be the name, and after that, this will take an argument. Okay, so this argument is going to be of type student. Okay, same student. Okay, same student everywhere, student, and the smallest student. Okay, but we need to also add a particular annotation which is at request body. Okay, so the reason is because we will be sending data over here. Okay, we will be sending data from our Postman. So where is that? This raw. Yeah, so we'll be sending a JSON data from our Postman, and with the help of this request body, that particular data will be fetched by the student object. Okay, so once we are hitting that particular path, this particular data will be fetched by this particular function. Okay, so I will like add the path and it will make more sense after that. So in this function, we'll be having at post mapping. So to reference that, this particular function will handle the post operation in this class or controller. So we need that post mapping. So in general, we will be using post mapping for post operations. So this will take the path. So I will go with add student. Okay, so now I hope it will make more sense. So this add student will come over here. Okay, will come over here after this port number slash, that particular add student will be coming here. So when I send the data as a request, this particular data will be then caught by this particular request body of student. Okay, then this student will have basically these details. So I hope now it will be clear for you. So inside this function, exact same thing, we have to return it. Okay, so it's going to be return, and we'll be using this service, student service. So it's going to be student service dot, and with the help of the student service variable, we will be accessing this particular function inside our student service. You know this function, right? Save details we created earlier. So with the help of this variable that we have created in our controller, we will be able to access this particular save details function. Okay, so it will be dot save details. Within that, we will be pass the student variable. Okay, so that's the code. So now let me explain you how this works in a simple term. Okay, so I'll just close these things. Only the main thing is going to be controller and the service. Okay, rest are just standard stuff. So I will go to my Postman. So I'll just explain it in a demo way. After that, I will run and show you. So we'll be adding the local host, the student, the path. After that, we will like have a JSON data, and whenever we hit send, this particular path slash student will be hit. Okay, so after hitting that, it will come over here. This path will be like, it will check whether we are having this add student path. So this particular path that we have sent in Postman matches with this path. So it will come over here, and we are having the request body annotation with the student object. Okay, so this data that we have sent over here will be now present inside the student variable, this variable, with the help of this request body annotation. So after this student variable will be having these values. It will come over here. Here you can see it's student service dot save details student. So basically we are passing all this data to the save details function, which is present inside our service. Okay, so now I will go to my service, this particular save details function. So I'll go here. The save details function is also having a parameter of student. Okay, so now this student will be referenced to as this student over here. Okay, it's like function calls basically. So what happens is that this data will now come to the function save details present inside our service from the controller. So it's like that. It's from the Postman data to our controller function, and from the controller function it goes to our service function, and in the service function we are just saving it with the help of dot save through our repo, like the repository variable that we have created earlier. So because of this dot save, it gets then saved in our MySQL workbench or database table. So this is the entire workflow. Okay, so this is how it will work. So now let me just run and show you this program. Okay, just come to this Spring Pro application. That is the main file. If you aren't having this run thing, just right click it and you just click on run project. And if you aren't having this edit configurations, I will just open it. So yeah, this is my edit configuration. Here you need to specify the Java, the main thing, and here you need to specify the working directory. So these are the standard stuff, and I will just now close it. And now in my database, okay, so this is my database. I will go to tables. I'm having only my table, so I'm not having the table, any table named as student. So here in entity, right, we have specified the table name to be as student DB. So if this program runs successfully, we need to get the student DB automatically created over here, and after that we will be sending some data from our Postman. So I will just now run the code. I hope it works. Lot of effort into it, and I don't want to get any errors right now. So I will run it. So after some time, you will be getting some logs like this, and if you get this final thing as Spring application started, so which means that there aren't any errors. And here you can see, right, we will be getting some SQL commands over here as well. So here you can see, right, create table student DB. So if I just now go to my MySQL workbench, and if I just now refresh it, so here you can see that I will be having the student DB over here. So if I just now go to my select asterisk from, I will just run student, and I will go with underscore DB. And if I just now run it, we will be having 3 columns, which is going to be of type ID, ST, mark, and name. So here you can see, right, where is that? Yeah, this particular name that I've specified over here will be directly coming to the column name, as simple as that. And another important thing you need to note here is that the port number on which your Spring Boot application is running. So if I just now come here, so here you can see, right, our Spring Boot has now started on port 8080. So this is like the default port. So now let's see what happens when we post data from our Postman, because that's our aim over here. We need to save data. Currently our table is empty. So for that, this is the port, okay? So just copy this 8080. So this is like a default port. So I will just come to my Postman, and here we need to change this port to 8080. Okay, important thing. I will say you the important thing what we need to do. So it's going to be localhost colon 8080, and here we are going to do post data. So just click here the operation and change it to post. Really important thing, many people won't do that. And after that you need to come to body, and it will be none at default, I guess. Body none. You need to go to raw after that, and you need to have like this, okay, the format. I'm inserting here only name and mark values because my ID is auto-generated. As I told you, right, my ID value is auto-generated because of this generated value annotation. So that's the reason why I'm not referencing ID over here. I'm having only name and mark values sent as a request body. So you need to have raw, have name within double quotes, hello within double quotes, mark key within double quotes, and since 100 is of type int, no need double quotes to that. Okay, be careful there as well. After that, here also important thing, you need to have this type as JSON. Okay, you need to change this to JSON. I think it will be text by default. If you put text, it will give an error. So I have it as JSON. Another important thing, and I think, yeah, that's it. These are the important things. Operation, and you need to change the path as well. So the path that we have specified in our controller, where is controller? Yeah, student controller. This particular path should come over here. You need to be careful with the cases as well. So I will just change it to some meaningful name. Okay, I will just put not meaningful, hello, hi, something like that, like this, and I will go with 1000 as the mark, some random thing. If I just now send it, so it's sending request. Yeah, so we have got the result over here. So we have got the result as a response because we are like returning it. Okay, here you can see that we have returned that particular thing, and we have got this thing. And if I just now go to my MySQL table and run it, so here you can see that I've got the value 1, which is auto generated. I'm not sending ID over here, and the name and mark are coming. And in case what if you want some other response, okay, you don't want the JSON to be appearing over here, you can just change it by going to your controller. You can just remove this return. You need to just change this as string because we'll be returning a string text. Okay, and I will come over here. I will just return something as posted. So this will work fine if you don't have any errors. Okay, I'm just doing it since I'm not having any errors. But in case of like company or a much more standard way, we should never do this one. Okay, never directly return a string or variable. Okay, I'm just showing it for a demo purpose. So like just to know how this basically works, why we are adding the class name over here. So that's the reason why I'm doing this. So I'll just now rerun it. For rerunning it, just click this button. Okay, so it will restart again. Yeah, so here you can see that it's restarting. Yeah, so my application has now restarted. So I will go to my Postman again, and this time we won't be getting the JSON over here. Rather than that, we will be getting this particular posted text appearing in our response area. So I will just now move this and I will just change it to world or something. I'll just put world, some random name, and I will give the mark as 111. And if I send it now, so here you can see that I'm getting that particular text over here. So that's the purpose. It's not necessary that you need to have that. And here you can see that this is how the insert operation works. Insert into student, the values like that. Yeah. So that's the SQL, like the query for what the operation that is being currently performed, the post operation. So if I just now go to my MySQL DB and run this command again, so we'll be having the value, the 111 and the world that I sent over here. So you can have a string over here, or you can just leave the normal way how it was earlier. The normal way is fine, I guess. So this is how you post data in MySQL database by using Spring Boot and Postman. So now we are done posting data. Let's focus on fetching all the data because that is our aim in this video. So for that, I will just go to my IDE again and let me just close everything. Okay. So it's going to be so simple. Literally just we need to change in 2 files and totally it's going to be like a 10 lines of code to fetch all the data after posting. So the first change what we need to make is in the service. Okay. Just go to service folder and open student service. And in this, we will be already having a service for posting data, okay, save details. Through that only we were like able to post data in our table. So now we are going to have exact same service to fetch all the details present in our table. So for this, I'll just go to the next line. It's going to be public, and this time the return type of our function is going to be a list. It's going to be of type list because when fetching all the data from our table, this first row is going to be a JSON data and the second row is also going to be another JSON data. So as a whole, both the JSONs will be present inside a list. So whenever we are fetching all the data from a table, it is going to get written in a form of a list. So that in our function also we need to have list type and not only student type. So this list is also going to be of type student because the objects of the students are ID, then mark and name. So that's going to be of the type student. Okay. So it's going to be student. Yeah. Only that we need to add the list, okay? You need to be careful there. And I will just name the function as get all details. Yeah. And here we won't be having any arguments because we are just going to fetch data, okay? We are not going to pass any data from our Postman or anything. We're just going to fetch the data. So no need of any data body or request body over there. Just have a return statement. That's enough. So it's going to be return. And we will be using our student repo name. Yeah, exact same thing. It's going to be student repo. And here we will be using the find all function. So here you can see it, find all. So I'll just type find all. Yeah, hit enter. So now we are done with our service. Okay, this is fine. This is well and good. And the next thing where we need to change is in our controller. So I'll just go to my controller, student controller. And here we need to also do the exact same thing that we did for our post. We need to create another function and we need to add get mapping. For posting data is going to be post mapping. For fetching or getting data is going to be get mapping. So I'll just be here. It's going to be public. The exact same thing. Here we are having student, but for our fetch or get all details, we add list of student. So here also we'll be using a list of student. Since our data is stored getting received in a form of list from our database, I told you, I explained to you earlier, right? These are two are going to be JSONs within a list. So we need to have list of student, and here we can name anything. It's going to be, I will name it as get details function like that, and no request body because we are just going to fetch the data. We are not going to like pass in an ID or some request. It's just raw fetching of the whole data. So this is enough. So it's going to be return. And here we'll be using the student service, okay, the service, this one, the class name, yeah, the object of the class, student service, this one. So it's going to be return student service dot, and here we'll be calling the function in the service, okay, this particular function, okay, get all details. It's going to be dot get all details. It's so simple, guys. If you understand for post, literally everything is the exact replica of the post operation. You need to like add minor changes here and there. If you are familiar with one operation, you can just basically replicate the exact same thing to all the other operations. So this is now fine, and we need to add our path. Okay, for post we had add student, right? So I'll just go to my Postman. So here you can see that we are having add student. So here you can just do annotation, and it's going to be get mapping. Don't add their post. Okay, it's going to be get capital G get mapping, and we are going to have I'll put get student. Yeah, get student. Yeah. So this is fine. As I told you, just 10 lines. Here 4 lines in the controller and here another 3 lines in our service class. That's the code, guys. Simple. So I will just copy this path and you know to like restart your ID. Okay. You know, like rerun. You will be having the button over here, run project. Just click it. So it will basically like restart the application again. Yeah, my Spring Boot application has now started. So I will just go to my Postman now. So in the Postman, we need to do many changes. Okay, the first major change is the data. Okay, we will be having raw JSON. Just click it to none. Okay, we are not going to send any data. It's just going to be a pure fetch operation. And next one is in the operations, you need to change this to get. Okay, don't have it as post. Change it to get. And next one, we need to change the path. So here we have specified the path to be as get student. So I'll just go here and remove this and I will just put paste the path. Okay, it's going to be get student. Remove it. Yeah. So we will be basically getting the 2 rows. Okay, these 2 values will be coming as a response over here. Like now we are having a single JSON, right? We'll be having a list and within that list we'll be having 2 JSON elements. This one row, this one row. Okay, like 2 objects. So this is it, guys. None, get, add the path that you have specified over there. Just send it. Yeah, so here you can see, right, as I told you, we are getting a list and inside that list we'll be having 2 JSON. So here we are having the first JSON and if I scroll down here we'll be having our second JSON and this is enclosed in a list. So that's the reason why we need to add here list. Okay, I hope that made sense for you now. So this is it, guys. We are having 2 rows here and I'm getting like 2 rows here as well. So if you want, I can add some another row. Yeah, I will just go with 5. Yeah, I will just add here 5. I'm manually like inserting values inside it now. I'll just go with the mark as 1 2 3 and I'll just put hi, and if I just now click on apply and I'll just click on apply, yeah, and finish. Okay, that was added. Okay, so now I'm having 3 rows and so if I just now click on send again, rather than 2 JSON we'll be having 3 JSONs within our list because just now I have added a new row. So if I just go and hit send, so 1 2 3, my new row has also been like displayed over here in the form of JSON. The final thing that we want to do is fetch data by using the ID. Okay, that is our aim in this video. So first thing, just close all the things. Okay, just close all the files that you have opened now. So currently we will be making changes only in 2 files. That's enough. Okay, we have done all the necessary changes for posting data. For fetching data we need to just make 2 changes. Okay, so the files are going to be student controller and another one is going to be the service file. So we need to just add around like 10 lines of code in both the files and that will do the job for us. So here we are having this post data. Okay, save details. So just come down and here I am present in the service. Okay, at first. So here you will be creating exactly a same function related to this. So in my case it's going to be public student and let me name it as get student details by ID, something like that. And here we will pass the argument as int type. Okay, because we will be accessing data with the help of this ID. And another important thing is that you need to have a column named ID. Okay, you need to name it literally ID so that this particular function works, otherwise it won't work, I guess. So literally name a column as a name as ID. Okay, be careful there. So it's going to be int ID and open curly bracket and we'll be return the repository name, which is student repo. Yeah, student repo dot, and here you will be having find by ID. Just hit enter and inside that you need to pass your integer ID. Okay, and after that you need to just have a or else condition. Okay, what if that particular ID is not present in our table? Okay, if I go with 10, ID as 10, no data is present, right? So we need to also have a else condition for that. So for that, just click it dot or else and just give here null. That's it. So now we won't be getting any errors. So this is absolutely fine. So now we are done with our changes in the service file. So as I told you, the next change is going to be in the controller. So I'll just go to my controller. Exact same thing. Just come down. Have a function. So it's going to be public student. So why we are having the return type as student is because once we are like fetching data with the help of ID, we will be returning this particular row itself. So let's suppose say that I want to fetch the ID of 1. So this particular row will be getting returned. So this is an object of type student, okay? ID, student mark, and name are variables of the object student. So that's the reason why we are returning student over here. So return type is student, okay? I hope that made sense. Student, and let me name it as fetch details by ID. Yeah, you can have any name over here, and I will just open curly bracket, and as I told you, this is going to return student service. So this one, so this particular variable that we have used, so because our function is present in the student service class, so we need to access this particular function only with the help of a object of the student service class. So this is that object, okay? Student service dot, and here we will be having get students details by ID. Okay, so this is fine. We need to pass here ID. So now a question will come to you, from where we will be passing this ID, because here you can see, right, whenever we save data, we didn't have, like, we passed student over here, so that student came from here. So the student like came from the request body. By request body I meant this one. So already we know, right, it came from this body, okay? It came from this body type. That's what request body means. But here we are not going to send any request body. This is going to be of none, okay? We are not going to pass any JSON or something like that. It's just going to be a pure get function without even passing any data. So from where we will be getting this ID? So the thing is that we will be passing ID in our URI, okay? So this is how it's going to work. So let me just add a get mapping. So for posting data, it is called as post mapping, all right? So post mapping, and for getting data, it's going to be at get mapping, okay? So capital G, yeah. So it's going to be get mapping, and here, similar to post mapping, we'll be specifying a path. So I'll just copy this and I'll paste it. So it's going to be get student by ID, and after that just put a slash and curly bracket, and within that we need to pass ID. We just pass the variable ID, okay? And after that, inside this, okay, inside this particular function's parameters, just put at use path variable. After that, just type int of ID. That's it. So now let me explain you how this is going to work. So in the save we had request body. So what request body did is that it basically fetched all the data coming from Postman's body. So we had raw and we had this JSON, okay? We had this JSON value for posting. So that particular value was fetched by this request body. So what path variable does is that, so here we are having get student by ID, right? Let me just copy this entire thing. I just copy this and I'm going to Postman, and I'm just going to paste this over here. So rather than having this ID, I will give a real number. So I will just give it as 5. So what happens is that whenever I hit on this, whenever I click on send, this particular path variable will fetch this ID value. Okay, so this 5 will be fetched by this path variable. So this ID is nothing but 5. Just imagine ID equals 5 there. So path variable is int ID, so 5 will be over here, and this ID value will be passed to over here. So get student details by ID of 5, and it goes over here. Int ID, this ID is 5. Student reported find by ID 5. So it goes over here to our table 5. It fetches this 5 123 high will be sent back, and this is a of type object, okay? Object of type student, okay? So that will be sent back again. Return, it will be returned over here, and that return will be coming over here, and after being returned from this particular main controller function, it will be getting displayed in our Postman. So this is basically how it works. The variable that you're passing after this path gets stored in this ID. That's why we need to specify this ID within curly brackets. If you specify within normal like this term, it will throw up error. It won't get stored in your variable ID. So you need to have this within curly brackets. So that's what it basically does, and that's it. It basically fetches the variable value from your URI. That's it. This 5 will be accessed through this ID, and you need to use this path variable annotation, similar to request body, but the purposes are different. So this is the code, guys. As I told you, like 4 lines over here and 3 lines, 7 lines. I told 10 lines actually. So just 7 lines. So just copy this path, okay? You need to just copy this path, and you need to now go to Postman and paste it. So you need to have get student. This exact same path should be coming here after localhost and your port number. And another important thing is you need to have it as get, okay? If you're having post, change it to get, and you need to send nothing, just don't send any data. Okay, go to body and it should be none. Don't send it raw or json, just body and none. And you need to just first again run your project. Okay, just give stop and rerun. Yeah, so it'll get started again. So here you can see that Spring Boot application has started, which means that there aren't any errors. So that's it. So I will just go to my Postman and get student by ID. So I will just give it as 5. We will be getting this 5 123 high as a response in our Postman. So if I just click on sending request, and here you can see that we'll be getting this ID, name and mark. Only that particular row, okay, row with that particular ID will be fetched. So I will go with some other value. Let me go with 2 this time. So this time I will go with 2 and we'll be getting this second row, hopefully. Yeah, we are getting the second row, which makes sense. And if I go with some random number 20, so this time I won't be getting anything in the output. Yeah, totally blank because we have written null over here. So where is that thing? Yeah, so or else we have just written null, and using that use case in your front end or something like that, you could map a condition. If that particular response is null, you could say that ID is invalid or not present in the table. So this is how it works, guys. And here you can see the SQL commands where just a where clause where that particular ID equal to that number. So this is how you fetch data by using an ID in MySQL using Spring Boot and Postman. So that we have posted data in our table. Let's see how to update the data present in the table. Okay, first let me just close all the files that are opened. Okay. So for updating the data, we will be literally making changes in 2 files. Okay, the 2 files are student service and student controller. So first I will make changes in the student service. I will just open my service. Yeah, so here I'm having my student service function which we wrote earlier. So I'll just now copy this exact same function. Okay, I'll just copy this exact same function and I'm just going to paste it. So first let me give you a brief walkthrough on how this particular thing is going to work. So we will just go to Postman, and instead of having post data, we will have here update data. So I'm just going to put or update is same, but here we won't be having update data. We need to just select put. Both are same actually, put and update. So we'll be selecting put and we'll be passing the data over here. So this particular ID should be an existing ID in the table, and next this mark and name are the things that we will be going to update. So it makes sense, right? This ID is used to find which particular row in the table that we are going to change, and after that we can change the mark and name value present in the table, and we'll be sending this as a payload, as a request payload. So we'll be having body value, it won't be none, we'll be having body value, and in the code we'll be fetching this particular data that is sent, and we'll be making changes to that particular existing value. Okay, so that's going to happen in a nutshell. So now let's just go and code. So it's going to be save details. I'll just change it to update detail because I'm going to do for only one object. So we'll be passing a student. Okay, type student, this is fine. So I'll just remove this thing, return statement now. So first thing, as I told you, we need to identify the row. We need to spot the row first because we are sending a ID, mark and name. So first thing, we need to spot which particular row we need to make changes, and after that we will be setting the mark and name by the updated value that we are passing from Postman. So this particular value from we are passing from Postman will override the existing value in our table. So initial case, we need to find that, or we need to get an instance of that particular row. We will be accessing that with the help of the ID that we are passing from here. So I'm passing random ID. Just imagine I will be passing here 3. Okay, rather than having 999, just imagine me passing 3. So we will be able to access this particular row with the help of this ID. So we'll be using find by ID. So I'll just now code and show you. Okay, so it's going to be of type student because at the end we'll be getting an object. So it's going to be student, and it's going to be, I'll say, update student is going to be the variable name, and it's going to be equal to our repository name, which is student repo. Only with the help of repository we will be able to access the data present in the table. Dot, as I told you, find by ID. So we'll be having find by ID over here, and inside this we need to pass the ID that we are passing from Postman, which is this ID. So we are passing it from request payload. So it's going to be this particular student. Okay, this value, this entire value will be coming over to this particular variable. So both are same. This student will contain this values. So it's going to be student, and we'll be having dot get id. So that's how we get the id present or in that particular object. We can't write student dot id. So this is not like JavaScript or something. So in Spring Boot, this is how we get the IDs. This student dot get id corresponds to this particular id that we are sending from our Postman. Okay, so this is now fine, and we need to also have a check condition over here. So what if I send some id that is not even present in my table? So here I am, see, right, I'm just having 3 and 4 id in my table. So what if I send id as 1000 or something? It will obviously throw an error because that particular id is not present in my table. So we need to also have a condition to handle that case, in case if some id is not present in my table. So we will be specifying or else null. Okay, so simple. In case if that id is not present in our table, we will just pass null. That's it. We will just have the update student value as null if that particular id is not present in our table. Okay, simple. And next line we will be having a if condition. So it's going to be if update student, okay, this particular variable not equal to null. So if that particular id is present, which means that this particular id is present. So only if the id is present, we will update statement will be having some value. If the id is not present in our table, our update statement value will be null because we have specified here or else null. So in case of our id is null, we can just return the statement, right? So suppose I am sending here 1000. I'm sending the id as 1000. This 1000 id is not present in my table. So why should I perform any update operation for an id which is not even present in my table? I can directly return id is not present or null. Null is means same, right? So null means the same. So if that id is null, if that update student is null, I'll just put here return null. That's it. Because we need to pass of type student, right? So we can't pass a string. So it's going to be return null. So this is in case if we are having an id which is not present in our table. So in case if you are having an id, let's suppose that I'm passing 3. So I'm passing 3 which is present in my table. It will come here. It will find the find by id. So find by 3. 3 will be written over here, and it will fetch the instance of that object. So our update student will have this particular row in it. 3, 7, CR7 will be present in our update student row, and inside this if condition will be true because update student has some value and it isn't null. So now we will do the set operation, that is like overwriting the values present in our existing table and updating it with the new values that we are sending from the Postman. So here it's going to be our update student variable. So it's going to be update student dot set mark. So this is a setting that I told you, set mark, and this mark is going to have the new value that we are sending from the Postman. So we need to set this particular mark that we are sending. This mark should come over there. So for that, exact same thing that we did. So for sending the ID from the Postman, we did student.getID, which corresponds to this ID. So exactly for mark and name, we will be having student.getMark and student.getName. I really hope that made sense. Student.getMark, and for name also exact same thing. It's going to be update student dot, and within this we need to pass student dot get name. So you need to be careful, like this is set and this is get. You don't interchange this. So now we are done. So now this code will basically replace our existing row, existing mark and name of this particular ID with the ID that we are passing from our Postman. Okay, these things. So now we are good. We are done with this now. So next thing we have to save it, right? So as you can see here, when we are like posting data, we just saved it. Student report.save that particular object. Exact same thing also we need to do here. It's going to be student repo dot save, and inside that you need to pass our object. So our object is going to be update student. So it's going to be update student, and here we are having a return type as student. Okay, so we can just return this object itself, return update student. Okay, return update student. So this is the code. This is the code, guys. Yeah. Now we're done with the function, that is a service function. So next thing is going to be our controller. So as I told you, we will be making another change in the controller also. So here is our post. Just remove this print statement. Yeah. So I'll just now give some space, and I'll just copy the exact same thing and modify it. That's the simplest way. So just copy the exact post function that we had earlier. I will paste it. So we won't be using post mapping over here. For update, it's going to be put mapping. It's not update mapping, it's put mapping. So capital P, we will be having here put mapping. And for rather than having add student, we can have it as update student, and this is fine. And return type is going to be student, and we can just have update student details, anything. You can just literally name anything, your function. And we need to have here request body, super important thing, have request body, student, this is fine. And here we need to make another change. Rather than having student service dot save details, we need to call here our update function. Okay, so it's going to be update detail. So this particular function that we had written earlier, and this needs a student variable as a parameter. So here we will be having student. All right, yeah. So now we are done with our code also. So I'll just stop this and now rerun it. You need to rerun it. Okay, so I'll just rerun the project now. Yeah, I think it's running, I guess. No, it's not running. Yeah, it's running now. So this is good. In the meantime, we can set up our Postman. So just copy this path. Okay, you need to copy this path, post mapping. Yeah, and go to Postman. And in this, we need to make some few changes, some important changes. So if you are having at none, you need to go to raw in the body option, and you need to have a JSON like this. ID should be there, mark should be there, and name should be there. ID, mark, and name should be in double quotes. And if you are having any integer value, no double quotes are needed. For example, 3 and 7, ID and mark are integer values, so I'm not specifying here any double quotes for the value. Whereas name is of type string, so you need to specify a value for name within double quotes like this. So body, and you need to have here the type as JSON format. So I think by default it will be in text. You need to change it to JSON format. So raw, body, and JSON, and you need to change this to put operation. Super important thing. Don't have it as post or something. And final thing, you need to just paste this path, okay, that put mapping path. Just paste it. So if you want, I can zoom in a bit. Zoom. Yeah, it's kind of zoomed. So it's going to be http:// you need to just copy this path. Okay, so this is it. So we will be having just a single JSON. Okay, so I think our application has now started. Yeah, Spring application now started. So now let me show you how this is going to work, and after that I will send the data. So we'll be hitting on send, and this is going to be our request payload object. So once we hit on send, this particular function will be triggered. It will come here, come to this path, and this particular function will be getting triggered. And since we are using the request body annotation, this data that we are sending from our Postman as request body will be caught by this variable, request body student. So this particular student variable will have this JSON object within that. And after that, what we are doing, we are sending this student variable object to this function update detail, which is present inside our service. So update detail is called, and the student variable which contains the data present in our Postman is being sent. So this student will go here and comes here, and this student will have exactly the same data as our Postman that we are sending. Yeah, so it comes here, it only fetches the ID, that is this ID, and it finds the table. So in case of me, I am sending now 3. Just imagine I'm sending 3. So this, it will get the reference of this particular row, and it will have the object stored inside it. So this update student data will have that row, and here we are just setting the or replacing the mark and name with the updated data that we are sending from our Postman. And after that, we are just saving it, and we're just returning update student. So this particular data, this updated object will be sent as a response to our Postman. It will be appearing over here. And in case if you are sending any irrelevant ID that isn't even present inside our table, this particular thing will be null. This update student will be null, and this condition will be false. Nothing happens here. It just comes return null. That's it. This is in a nutshell how it works. Okay, so now let me just clear the console, and I will send some data. So I'll just go to my table at first. I'm having 3 already, so I need to just change the value. It's 3 and 4. 7 CR7 already it is there. So I'll just go to my mark. I will just add some more 7s, and I will go with some Su. Yeah, it's fine. So if I send it this particular row, okay, I will go to my table. This particular ID with 3, 7 needs to get changed. So it's going to be like 4 more 7s need to get added over here, and it's going to be CU over here. So I'll just go to my Postman and send it. So here you can see that if I just now scroll down, I'm getting the response, and if I go to my MySQL table and I'm just click on this refresh query, so here you can see, right, it's changed instantly. And here you can see in the console we will be having that SQL query. So just select and update using where clause. Yeah, update student set mark and name where ID equal to. So this query has been executed right now. So this is cool, right? So now if I send any irrelevant ID, I'll just go with and I'm just sending 100. 100 isn't even present in our table there, right? 100 isn't present. Only 3 and 4 are present. Yeah. So if I send it, I'll be getting nothing, literally nothing in my Postman response, because I'm sending null. So literally nothing, because we are sending their null. Yeah, in the code we are sending null. This will be null.
And the final thing that we want to do is delete the data, okay, because that's the aim in this video. So for this, first let me just close all the files that are now opened. Yeah, and we'll be making changes only in 2 files, which is service and controller. So first I will open my service file, and I'll just now copy this. Okay, I'll just copy this exact save function that we used to post earlier. So just copy this and let me just paste it down, and rather than having save details, I will just click, just add it as delete student. And as I told you, we will be deleting this particular student details with the help of the ID. Okay, so here you can see, right, in the table I have some data over here. So this is the ID. So by using this ID, we will be able to delete this entire row, which is the details of the student. Okay, so I'll just now pass here ID. ID is of type int, so it's going to be int ID over here. Okay, and we are just going to use the delete by ID function. Okay, so it's not going to be save, so it's going to be student repo, which is our repository name dot, we'll be having the delete by ID inbuilt function. So here it is, delete by ID, and it takes an integer which is going to be our ID. And here is the important thing. Okay, the reason why it is showing us an error is because the return type that we have specified over here is student, but here we are not returning anything. I think we are just deleting the ID, and it's not going to return a type of student. So what we can do here is we are just going to change the return type as string, and rather than returning this statement, just remove this, and you can just have a return like a text or something. You can just have a text, like just put return, and you can just send deleted. Yeah, that's it. And in case we want, you can also pass the ID along with it. That's absolutely your choice. Like you can just put a plus ID. Yeah, I think you can do this. Yeah, this doesn't throw us an error, so you can also do this. So yeah, so this is it, guys. This is how you delete it. So rather than sending the student details, we are just sending a string as deleted, because we are not going to get anything after deleting that particular ID, right? So why should we pass something student here? That's why I'm passing a string. So I hope this made sense. So these are the changes that we need to do in our service file right now. And after that, we need to go to our controller, and here we will specify the path, okay, slash this path. So let me just now copy this and let me just now paste it. Yeah, paste it here. So the first thing is about this particular path. And before that, we aren't going to use here post mapping. We need to use here delete mapping, since this is an delete operation. Okay, so it's delete mapping. And next thing is, as I told you, it's about this path. So I told you, right, we'll be getting the ID from the the data that we're going to pass in the request. So we will be getting this ID from the path. So what I mean by path is that in here, right, in this local host, we will be passing here slash ID as 1. So from this, we'll be able to access that particular ID, and we'll be then deleting that ID. So we'll be passing the ID in the URL itself. Like this is the path variable that you call in Spring Boot. Okay. So for that, what you need to do is, first normal thing, I will just have a path as delete student, and here I will be putting slash within curly brackets. I need to put ID. Okay, this can be any variable, but I will put it as ID in our case. So this ID directly corresponds to this particular number that we are passing. So just imagine this as, I'll just change this also to like delete student. It's not list, yeah, delete student. Okay, I hope now it makes sense. This delete student corresponds to this delete student, and this ID corresponds to this number that we are passing. Okay, yeah. So this is how we will be able to like fetch this number or ID that we are having in our URL. Yeah. So after this, it's just the basic stuff. We need to just replicate the exact same details here. So here we are having a student, but here we are having a return type of string. So just change this to string also. So it's going to be string, and rather than having here post details delete, let's just call it as delete function or something, delete function. And here is the main change. Okay, instead of having this request body, I'll just remove this completely. It's going to be path variable. Okay, that's the annotation that we will be using over here. It's path variable, and you're going to have int ID. Okay, so this ID corresponds to this ID over here, so exact same thing. And next thing, we'll be using this service. So we are having the service, and we have to just call the delete function present inside our service. So this is our service, and inside that we are having the delete student function, which takes in int ID as an argument. So it's going to be dot delete student, and it requires a ID which is of type int. Yeah, that's it. So is it here? Yeah, it's gone. So that's the code basically. So let me now explain how this is going to work. So here we'll be having this, and you need to change this to delete. Another important thing, you need to change this to delete. Yeah, if you don't change, you will be getting an error. And we are not going to pass any data. So only the one data that we are going to pass is through the URL. I won't call it data, just a path variable. We will be accessing this number 1. So once we hit send, this number 1 will be like this. We will be hitting this particular path, and this number 1 will be fetched by this ID. Okay, the ID that I had over here. So this ID will be 1, and this path variable annotation will be able to access this ID 1. So int ID 1 and student service dot delete student of ID 1. So this particular function will be called with the argument 1. We'll go here, and this will be 1 delete by ID 1. So from the repository, from the table, it will get deleted, and we'll be getting deleted with the ID returned. This will come over here, this will return. So that particular string with the ID will be returned over here. That will return also the same thing, and we'll be getting that deleted text over here in our response. So this is how it basically works in a nutshell. And there is also another scenario that we need to like consider also, like what if we send some ID that isn't present in our database. So here I am sending 1. What if I send 1000? Because in my table I am having only like 5. I am having only 4 IDs. So what if I send 1000 or something like that? So you need to also have a condition for that also. So yeah, so I'll just go here. So first let us check whether this is working. So I'll just now stop and rerun the program. And now the server has now started, and let me just now go to my MySQL table and refresh it. So here you can see that I'm having 4 values with ID. So let me just now go to my Postman. So there are some important things that you need to note here. So first thing is you need to change the operation to delete, and change the body and put it as none, and you need to have this exact same path. So I'll just zoom in a bit. Yeah, so localhost delete student 1. So be really careful with the lowercase and uppercase characters. It needs to be exactly the same way that you are having here, and the ID. Okay, so if I just now send it, our ID with number 1, this row should get deleted. So if I hit send now, so here you can see I'm getting deleted 1. So the reason why I'm getting here is because, as I told you, in my service I'm sending deleted plus ID. So that's the reason why I am getting the value over here in the Postman. And if I go to my MySQL table, and if I refresh it, the first row shouldn't be there because we have just now deleted the ID 1. So if I refresh it, see, you can see right, my id one row has been now removed, which means that our delete function is performing perfectly. And here is that query, okay, delete from table where id equal to this, like the SQL query. That's how it's running. So as I told you, I will be showing you another scenario in which we will be sending some irrelevant ID. So as I told you, I will be sending 100. So 100 is actually not present in my table. So here, if I send now, I'll be getting an error, the response. Yeah, so here you can see that I'm getting a big error because that particular path doesn't exist. So you can do some 2 or 3 things, I guess. Like you can try for having a catch, like try catch block and catch the error and give some exceptions. But I think the most simplest way is to like have a exist by id function, okay. So I'll just go to my code, and inside my service I will just have a if condition over here. So it's going to be if I need to pass the repository name student repo dot exist by id. Here I will pass the id. So this particular function checks if that particular id is present in our table or not. So only if that id is present, this condition becomes true, and it then only performs the delete operation. So in case that id is not present, let's just like send a return statement saying id is not present, like that. Yeah, id not there. Yeah, so simple. We need to just have a if else block, and inside the if block we are having, if this condition is true, we will be like performing the delete operation, else we are just sending id not there. So it's a repository name dot exist by id, and we are just passing the id. So again, let me just now rerun it. So the application has now started, and if I just go to my Postman and I'm sending the exact, like the invalid id which is not present in our table, and if I hit send, and this time we need to get id not present in the response. Yeah, so here you can see that id not there, and we are not getting any errors also. In part, which is posting the list of JSON, okay. So for that we will be just making some 6 line of code changes, okay. So I will just go to my IntelliJ IDEA. I will literally close all the files which are open, okay. So as I told you, it is just like 6 lines of code that we need to change in our service and controller. That's it. Let me just now collapse the entity and repository. So I will just go to my service at first. So this is the exact function that we used earlier to save a single student data. So I'll just now copy this exact same thing, and I will just paste it here. So the only changes that we are going to make here is that instead of having a single student object, we will be sending a list of student objects, because we will be sending a list from the Postman. So before we send a single data, but now we will be sending a list, okay. So for this, let me just now add list. So wherever we have student, just change it to list, okay. Yeah, and here also we'll be having list, and you can just change the variable name to students because it's plural, it's your choice. Here also change it to students. Yeah, and another important thing that we need to do is, instead of having save, we need to change it to save with capital A, save all. Yeah, just change it to save all. So this is the changes that we need to do in our service.java, and student repo, this is the same thing. So just change the student object to list of student, okay. That's the thing. And you need to just change the function name also. So instead of having save details, I will just change it to save list details to add more clarity over there. So this is now fine. And the next thing, as I told you, we need to make 6 lines. I have done 3 here. Next thing is going to be in the controller. So I'll just go to my controller, and here also I'm having the exact same thing. I'm having this controller function for my single object saving. So I'll just now copy this, and I'll just come down and paste it. And here also we will be doing the exact same changes. First we need to change the post mapping path. I'll just change it to add student list, and exact same thing. If you're having an individual student word over here, just add a list in front of that. That's it. Student list, and here also list,
and don't add list for the variable. Okay, we need to add only list for this class name and not this variable. Let's change the students, here also students, and here I need to change the function name. So in our service we are having the function name as save list details. Okay, save list details, but here we are having as save details. So I'll just change this to save list details. That's it. You need to change the path and change the function name which you have specified in your service, and just change the student to list of students. So these are the changes that we will be doing in our code, and you need to just rerun your project. Yeah, just click on this rerun your project. So your project will be like restarting again. You need to restart basically. Yeah. So after some time you will be getting started Spring Pro application, and if this doesn't work, you need to just press the stop button and again start it. So in some cases like rerun button will also work. So just try it that way. So now we're done with the code in IntelliJ. Now let's just go to Postman. All right. So yeah, this is the data that I sent earlier, which has ID, mark, and name, because these are the values that we are having in our entity. So if I go to my entity, as I told you like earlier, we're having ID and mark and name. So I'll just now select all the data that is present in my student DB table, and I will just now like delete it. Yeah, I'm just like clearing the table that I had earlier. So if I just click on apply, yeah, the table is now empty. So now I am just going to like perform the insertion of list. Okay, list of json. So if I just go to the exact same student DB table and run it, we'll be getting it basically empty. Okay, nothing is there. So now let's just go to Postman, and here I'm having a single JSON object. Okay, and here I'm trying to insert name, mark, and ID. The reason is because that's a column that I have in my table. As well, I'm having the ID, mark, and name over here in my entity also. So I can just insert these three values. So for name, I'm just giving it as name, name 1, marks random, I'll just give ID as 1. So we are going to pass here a list of JSON. This is now a single JSON object. So for converting this into a list, you need to just have a square bracket at the top. Yeah, the starting point should be a square bracket, and you need to just put a comma, and you need to just copy this single JSON first. So just copy this JSON at first, and after putting a comma, paste it again, and just change the ID to 2 and name to 2, and again put a comma and paste it, ID to 3. If you're having auto generated ID, you can try that, and I'll just put 3. Yeah, so this is fine, and at the end you need to close this thing with another square bracket. So you need to open and close with square bracket, exact same way how you do for list. So you have a list, you have square brackets, within that you have elements, each element is separated by a comma. So exact same thing that we are following here for our data also. And so since I am passing the ID over here, so I'll just go and remove my ID that I'm having in my like the auto generated one. I'll just remove this annotation since I will be manually passing the ID. So if you want, you can have it. I think in some cases it may like confuse and give you some errors. So I would prefer you to like send the ID direct. So the application has restarted now, and my table is also currently empty. And if I just go to my Postman, and if I just now hit on send, and if I just now scroll down, yeah, if I just pull it up, yeah, so here you can see, right, this data we are getting back as response. And if I go to my MySQL table, and if I just now refresh the command, so here you can see that we'll be getting the values over here 1, 2, 3, 10, 10, 10, name 1, 2, 3 also, which means that this particular list is getting posted over here. So I hope you would have found this video useful. I have also done many other tutorials in Spring Boot, CRUD operations by using Node.js, MongoDB, MySQL, as well as programming tutorials in C, C++, Java, Python. Check the playlist, subscribe me. Thanks for watching.